Phyllis, if you'd have roll call, please.
Ian Collier.
Here.
Bill Carbach.
Here.
Ken Meyer.
Here. You were emailed a copy of the minutes from our April 4th meeting. Have a motion to approve those minutes?
I'll approve as emailed.
Okay.
No, it's not.
You weren't here. I'll second it. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the same. Thank you. First thing is legal notice. I want to make a matter of record. It was a legal notice for the bids for the nature preserve. It was posted in the newspaper, and I'd like to make that a matter of record if I could.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second to make that a matter of record. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Thank you. First thing, today, the bids were opened for the nature preserve. Jeremy, what was the engineering estimate for that?
On the actual grant amount,
$383,533.
Yes, was the max amount.
Okay. There were two bidders, two contractors that bid on it. Fleming came in at $320,000. T&E Construction came in at $279,300. So well below the projected engineering cost. So we're looking good. Kevin McCrory was here. Jeremy took it under advisement. Kevin will take that back up to his office. Jeremy's going to go up there. They'll go over it real closely and make sure that they didn't leave anything out. And then it'll come back to us to approve at our next meeting.
Friday at 9, we're going to sit down with
Kevin,
with that company.
with TE.
Yeah. The biggest thing, I did some checking this afternoon, the biggest thing is TE does their own paving. So that's the difference.
They don't sub it out to somebody else.
Because what Greg would be paying
He'd be paying like
for Brooks or Wayne
Yeah, right.
is the difference of the first and second bid. So they were that close.
Where are they from?
For Wayne.
They have a good reputation?
Yeah, I don't know a whole lot about them. I tried to get a hold of John on the way in here. I'm pretty sure John dealt with them in the past.
I talked to both, I talked to Greg Fleming this afternoon. He said they were good.
Yeah.
And I
Some
talked
people
to
say they're good,
Kevin
some
McCrory,
people-
and he said they were
Everybody
fine.
has their opinions.
So, hopefully we're good.
They're bringing me lunch or dinner, I mean. What? We're going to eat between 4 to 1.
Put them in my office. Thank you. Sure. I'll take the one that looks, this one looks
Take
full.
that one, that's, thank you.
Is that one full?
No, it doesn't matter. Thank you.
Okay. Next up on the agenda,
Did you get some for yourself? Was it?
Jeremy, hang up here. If you got, actually, I need to go to Bill Slike next and get him out of here. Bill, come on up. I know you said you just have to go to Fort Wayne, but still, no reason to make you wait around.
Yeah.
We had a progress meeting today for the sewer interceptor project, and we're just about done.
Yep, the project has come along very well.
I don't think you want to try to turn it on?
I think you have to hold it down like for a couple seconds.
On top there.
Like one.
Battery time.
So, that's better off.
I think overall,
It looks like it's blinking red.
with the fact that
It might be dead. You got a little bit.
I thought the legislation had passed, that's why they're back to it. They're still not utility. They're still not utility. But even if that legislation does pass, well, it doesn't matter because then they have the right, the absolute right to use our utilities. Doesn't matter what you call it.
I know you turned it on midway for me last time.
So we told them, look, put it in a place that's not in somebody's front yard, you know. Can you put it near the owner's property here and suggest that they consider that what we do? You know, they took our suggestion, they relocated it.
All right, I'm going to get going, and it'll be on for the next.
That's right.
So they're going to work.
Anyway, the project is progressing very well. It's nearly finished. They are moving along with site restoration. Cat will be graded and ready for seeding. We're working on the southern half right now. That's
I can only make
the next step. They expect to have that done in about 2 weeks if the weather continues to cooperate. And then about the time that wraps up, they'll be ready for the final pavement restoration. And that'll take a week to 2 weeks as well. So about a month, they should be pretty much fully wrapped up. Status.
And I'd ask Bill if he could kind of give me a rough estimate today as to where we were in the budget for the sewer project. Go ahead and kind of go over that. This is just rough estimates.
Rough estimate. There's, with the change orders, which includes several items that weren't in the original scope, where we expanded, adding the length of the north end, the demolition of the Loshi building, and changes in that area. All the change orders and project costs to date, the total for the project is currently showing a total of $2,907,923 and change.
Say it again,
$907,923.
Okay.
And the original engineer's cost opinion at bid was $3,660,350. So you've still got a bit of savings, and I think there are a few items that are unit prices and such that are showing up in the $2,907,907 price that will be adjusted downward in the final change order that will come in the next month or two. So I think you're going to be a little below that, but I'm not 100% on that. Well, there's also some additional seating, so it may end up being a wash, but you're real close to that's probably being a fairly accurate number, $2,000 or so.
So we'll have a little money left over to put toward the next phase.
Phase, which we're starting on the speaking of that, the monitors on river gauges were installed last week. And that all went pretty well, and I believe we've got them on telemetry, but I was not able to get an update from our office that has the equipment to do that on how they've been running the first week, and there really hasn't been a lot of rainflow to judge in that time frame either, so but we'll see how that's going and keep an eye on that. Today at the progress meeting, we did approve, well, we're ready to approve, we need your approval, I guess, on the final part of this. Change orders 8, 9, and 10, and I can go through each of these. Change order 8, my page just got flipped around. Change order 8 was the originally authorized, I guess you would say, as RFP 1. This was the changes at the north end of town where we went behind, we had to extend the sewer about almost 100 feet behind Zwick's and add a manhole because the grades were not operating where they thought they were when it was surveyed. So it all went well, and that change came to an addition of $61,906.11. And these change orders are included in the $2,907,000 figure that I just gave you. So, but we basically that included pipe, a new manhole, regrading, some bypass pumping at the the flow around and into the siphon there so things could stay in operation. So.
And Bill, even though that increased the cost, had the grade been properly identified to begin with, it would have been engineered to do exactly what we did anyway.
That's correct. That's exactly the case. This would have been there had these grades there not been a discrepancy or and I think there was just difficulty getting into some of the structures due to the size and depth. that threw this off. So I don't think it was anything, wasn't awful. They also actually, in doing that, they fixed the siphon where the structure itself had, due to the grade and pressure from the river, kind of part of the structure had slid off one barrel, it's moved off the other improperly. So, which that wouldn't have been discovered hadn't we done that, and you might have had a repair down the road that would have been critical at probably a time when the river was up. So,
Kind of a blessing in disguise.
right, yeah.
Approve it.
Do you want me to keep going, or do you want to do each
We'll
one?
do each one.
Okay.
We need a signature.
So I have change order number 8, which is the amount of $61,906.11. If I could have a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Change order number 8 is approved.
Put my glasses on so I can actually read better. Try to do it from memory. Okay. Change order 9 is also from an RFP from near the beginning of the project. This is for a deduction in the cost of $22,505.48. And what this is related to is, if you remember, we early on in the project, the city was able to buy the Loshi building, and instead of doing jack and bore for the installation through that parcel, we realigned the sewer, and they were able to open cut. And we said this would be there would be some savings for doing this work this way. That's what this credit is for. So this is related to that. There was 240 feet or so. It wasn't jack and board. It was direct open cut installation.
Okay. So change order number 9 is a deduct or decrease of $22,505.48. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Thank you. And the third one, Bill?
The third one is change order 10. And this was for the structures from 106A through 111, and an existing structure that was modified during the project, F7S045. These structures had very low rim elevations compared to the rest of the system and the rest of the sewers, and the castings and the top sections of the manholes, the specs didn't have in about bolting these down, or they did have in about bolting the castings down, but they didn't note that you needed to bolt. You couldn't have riser rings, and the sections needed to be bolted together, so they had to go back and replace a few sections. They added, I think, about 4 cones and about 4 or 5 barrel sections, and then they had to re-bolt the re-secure and fasten pieces of the manhole together, and then the rims to the rims and frames to the manhole to prevent the hydraulic grade line, the level of water in the structure itself, from trying to lift those off. We did have one incident where one was lifted off pretty significantly early on when it wasn't bolted on, and kind of how we discovered that. That was discovered. This is an additional change. This is work that
So there's on your change order, this needs to be changed because this decrease is an increase.
No.
Sorry.
Phyllis has some white out in her office.
Yeah, I do. If you want me to do that, Stein, or...
No, because...
Well, at the top it says increase, and then down here it says decrease.
Well, the top would be right, but the bottom should have been changed.
We can just put a line through it and initial it.
Is that okay, or no? You
I
shouldn't
don't
do that.
know. I'll get it turned around.
Okay.
And
All right.
I might just be that page, but I'll get it to Greg tomorrow.
Okay.
So, and get it in for signatures. But we know it needs to be an increase of $11,446.89.
Okay, well,
It is actually an increase, if you want to note it on
Right.
there, and then I'll get it corrected. But this is what happens when they change from one to the other, and you always kind of progressively increment these as you...
So on the previous number 9 then, Bill, would that say increase and decrease on the top and then on the bottom? Is that right then?
Number 9 is correct.
So it would say increase.
It is increase on the top, because
And then
you're saying an
decrease.
increase...
From previously, gotcha.
Right. And that's sort of the net of the whole thing.
Okay.
So,
All right.
it's just that one place.
Okay.
Well, I thought I switched that, and obviously, no.
Too many boxes to check.
Too many, yeah.
well, subject to Bill getting this changed to an increase rather than a decrease, change order number 10 for the amount of $11,446.89. If I could have a motion to approve.
So, second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same. And Phyllis, I'm going to go ahead and sign this just for whatever, and if you need me to sign it again tomorrow, I will.
It might be Thursday till I get it. But
We can make this one work for now.
I will... Actually, I'm probably just going to push that page through via email to Greg and have him scan it and get it back to me, and then I'll compile it and get it to you.
That's fine.
And then I'll have to go back and do it through e-com, which will just be sending the final documents through, but I don't want to wait on trying to do it with e-com
That's fine.
until I have all of it at this point. So those were the changes. We also have a pay application for last month, which for $54,227.30. The majority of that is for the work covered in the 3 change orders. There's about a little bit, because there's change orders, there's a little bit of an addition to the retainage, which I don't think we usually note, but it's about $50,000 net increase in change orders, and then about 2,000 or 6,000 more in other work, and then
I don't think you do. I think we just...
then this is the pay application now. So
Okay, so I have a pay application for $54,227.30 to get Fleming paid again. Motion?
So moved.
Second. And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, the same, thank you. So we take care of that,
yeah,
get him paid?
I gotta compile all the other things to get the final paperwork.
Yes.
But
You know, not that it matters that much, but the pay applications, like I got that in the mail, or I got in the mail yesterday. And, you know, with our council meeting, like our cutoff is when, Phyllis? Like we won't actually be able to, the Thursday before, so we won't actually pay this until when?
Well, this I can do because you guys are approving it tonight.
Okay, all right.
Yes, but his for AECom is the next meeting.
Yeah, okay.
It's fine.
I'll just eat ramen noodles, it's okay.
Hey, you know what they are, so that means we've had them.
Once, I actually made it through college only needing, or I've only recently had them.
Bill, they're good if you put less water.
Yeah, I can see that.
Anything else, Bill?
I expect we'll have, I didn't have time to finish it, but for your next meeting, and I may not be here for it, but I expect we'll have the authorization to say they have reached substantial completion, and along with that, we've got to go back and forth to release some of the retainage funds from the escrow back to them for the work that they've completed. So typically there's a formula for how much that works, and I've got to look at where they are to date, which will probably be through today, on what they have left to complete. So
We're not having a progress meeting 2 weeks from today. We're waiting to have it 4 weeks from today.
Right.
And
16th.
at that time, for sure, we should be good to go. So
I think we'll be very close.
Yeah.
They'll probably have 2 more pay applications, and then probably do the retainage in two releases as well.
Yep.
So,
Okay. Thank you, Bill.
very good. Thank you.
Jeremy? That one out there, I didn't hear him. See if that mic's working. We just put new batteries in it, but see if it's working. Is it? Test?
Yeah.
It is on? Okay.
Hear the bell.
Couple things. First, I guess, let's talk concrete quotes for phase... No, let's not do that. Let's talk Master Drive. Master Drive.
The Master Drive project is definitely well underway. Today, plumbing did complete the construction of the storm sewer. So all the inlets are in, all the storm sewer work is done. I checked on them today around noon, and they were putting the last piece of pipe in, and they were going to spend the rest of the day just doing some house cleaning, getting stuff loaded up so they can move on to their next job. This morning we had a pre-bid meeting for the water main replacement for Master Drive and Washington Street. There's about 3 blocks there on Washington Street that's included in that project. We only had one interested contractor attend the meeting, and he's the only one with a set of plans. That is plumbing, excavating. Bids have to be in by next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. So we will know the fate of the water main project. Next Tuesday we will take that under advisement for 2 weeks. And at your May 2nd meeting, you're going to have a big board of works meeting awarding a lot of projects. So.
And then we award that on the 2nd, or whatever that date would be, and then he'll have the clear to go with the water. In the
Yes.
meantime, down on Master Drive, everything's just going to kind of set like it is.
For a little bit. We have a lot of removal to do, some curb removal, asphalt removal, some little things that they found putting the storm sewer in that we need to go back and correct, just some
Okay.
real minor things. So we probably have about a week and a half's worth of work there on our own.
Okay.
Talking with Greg today at the pre-bid meeting, he said if he was successful in this, as long as we let him know right away that
You get right on it.
he would get the material ordered, he's about 2 weeks from being able to move to the next job, so it's actually going to fall into place real well for him. And then it's about a 4-week construction process, so I'm hoping to have everything wrapped up by the end of July, 1st of August, the paving, the curb, the concrete, all the street lights and such, so very overdue project, I believe. We didn't really find a whole lot that was unexpected, other than we did have some overruns on some stone due to a sewer that was in there that was a little close to where we needed to be. So we had to shift over a little bit, and the dirt was pretty unstable for a good ways. At one point, we were short about a ton per foot of backfill stone. So he's just going to have to run the calculations and see what he figured in the bid and what's going to have to be additional. So there will be a change order coming for, at a minimum, that portion. So, but you're probably a month or 6 weeks away from seeing what those numbers are.
Okay. Any questions for him on the master drive?
Nope.
You got down concrete quotes for sidewalk work on First Street?
Yes. At the last Board of Works meeting, we discussed Phase 1 of the Monroe Street sidewalks, street lighting, talked about a lot of different things out here. One of the questions when we're talking about street lighting, I believe Tim brought up was
You ready for this?
some of the sidewalks on First going from Monroe to Jackson. It's kind of a question because for the sewer project, that interceptor job, plumbing will be paving that portion of the street. And it makes sense with the amount of money that we're putting into downtown over the next several years. And if we're going to replace the street lighting, to look at those few sections of sidewalk that definitely needs to be addressed. If you flip to the very last page of your handout, I had Taylor Gage measure up and give us an estimate on the section of sidewalk in front of the former Grody Chiropractic office. That's really, really bad. And then from the motorcycle shop, basically at the haircut shop, all the way back to Monroe Street. With curb drive entrances and such. That total will come back at $14,382.50. We really don't have any money set aside for that. Roger and I talked today, possibly sidewalk money, or if you had other money set aside. I'm just kind of reporting back on that.
Roger,
That portion.
if I can interject right now on sidewalk funding, have you been getting hit up by some of these people that have been coming in wanting sidewalks and trees down and whatever?
Yeah, I probably got like a dozen on the list now, and just figured like 1,500 apiece for them, which
Yeah.
is high typically. That'll burn up about 18,000, and I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get another 10 or 12.
And what do we put in a year?
50.
50, okay.
And we haven't started taking any out of that yet, but we got some that are being put in right now. So,
Okay.
and no doubt that section of First Street.
Bad,
Good.
yeah. Now, having,
Plumbing's portion of the repaving, just so you have a good idea, is Monroe Street to the alley. And then there's just a couple hundred feet in between the edge of the new pavement that we put in a few years ago to where he's going to stop. So I agreed to make up that couple hundred feet there. If you can come up with the money to do the walks, it only makes sense.
okay, now having said that, let's all turn back to the front page.
Are we talking about the east side of the First Street?
Yes.
Or west side of First Street?
Both sides.
Both sides. Your street lights will actually be on the east side, the river side or the east side of the street. But, the sidewalks are really, really bad. If anybody ever looks at that, you would definitely understand.
A year ago, council budgeted $150,000 for streetlights and concrete from the bridge to 3rd Street. Once we got into it this year, we found out that that wasn't going to be near enough. So, Jeremy, you want to walk them through this?
Yeah, let me get up, stand up here. On this project, on the Monroe Street project, you set aside $150,000 for that. If you kind of follow along, $20,000 was engineering
JPR.
from JPR, correct. You did approve in the last meeting the $20,414 for the 4 light poles, or 5 light poles, sorry, for the decorative poles. Your next line is sidewalk replacement from the bridge to First Street, including the light bases. Next side joke.
Yeah.
For $26,700. That total comes to $67,114. follow down, you have a balance then of $82,866 once you complete that portion. Keep in mind...
Which is what we've been talking about doing the last couple of meetings, was just this phase 1. Now
Keep in
today...
You will have a little bit of wiring.
Yep.
Tom has not got back with me on that. Hopefully I hear something pretty soon. On the First Street poles, you approved that at the last meeting of $20,414. The bases are $2,750.
How many poles on that one, Jeremy?
That's 4 poles.
Five, isn't it?
Well, I figured in 5, but there would be an extra pole
Okay.
because we're going to go
Put
over
one the
here.
other way.
We may not need it, so that may be 1 pole deducted
Okay.
off the total.
We're going on First Street north with the light poles, or?
Yes. The way that's fed, Tyler, it comes down the pole in the alley in between the Grubby chiropractic and the whole bank. So you're going to have to work back to the intersection because nothing will cross the road anymore and nothing will be aerial. So to build that, you're going to have to come over here, come down back to the side of the sidewalk to get around the corner and bank back to the bridge. Maybe we'll do the same thing to get to Jackson Street. Come down a pole and then go to the north. So with that being said, once you complete the light poles and the bases on First Street, you're $59,722. Flip to the next page. Carry over that balance of $59,722. And you get into what I call phase 2, from First Street to 2nd. You're still at 5 poles, same amount of money. Sidewalks, $34,734. Light bases, $2,750. Total, $57,898. So at this point, you have a balance when you're sitting out here at the corner of City Hall at $1,824. It really isn't a balance because you're going to be in a hole at that point.
With Rorick.
Rorick's portion, which when I first talked to Tom, he gave a budget number from the bridge to 3rd Street was $6,000
Per side.
So 6 and 12, and like Ken and I talked today, probably 15 would be approximately.
Including First Street and everything. All he's doing, he's providing the wiring, but we're going to run the wiring, Jeremy's guys, and then he will install the poles and hook up the wiring. So that's why it's so cheap.
How we have to do this is it's all underground, so we're pulling the sidewalks up. And while we're there, we're just digging the wire in. And like Tom said, there's no need for him to kick us out to move equipment in to turn around and do the same job. But like he said, we could probably do a lot quicker and a lot more efficient.
It's going to be in conduit then?
Yep.
Good deal.
I'm just maybe playing catch up here. We're moving north on First Street with lighting.
Just to Jackson. The way we're feeding the bridge area,
You have to come from that area.
have to come from that direction. So regardless what you do, you're going to have to come down a pole and bury wire all the way back to the intersection. You're going to pave if you think, well, you're going to pave it, but if you do the sidewalks,
Which they need.
and put the lights in, you're pretty well done over there.
Okay.
Is what we were thinking. And that's what we talked about in the last meeting. I'm not sure.
I went here.
Yeah, you weren't here. That's the discussion we had of how we're going to feed that. If you don't want to bore under the road, because that's going to add thousands of dollars every time that you bore. And there's a lot of good places that we can tie over the transformer and get underground water.
So basically, Jeremy, what you're saying is to do from the bridge to 2nd Street and do from First Street to Jackson, you need to come up with about another $13,000 that would cover
Approximately.
Rorick's.
Approximately.
but we're not done. So then there's Phase 3, which is from 2nd to 3rd Street, which should cost about the same as Phase 2. It's going to be 5 lights. There may be a little more concrete, we're not sure, but ultimately, it's going to be very similar to Phase 2 in pricing, okay? And we don't have that money budgeted. We really are falling short of being able to do this Phase 2. So this is where we kind of...
But you have a plan.
We have a plan. Yes, a plan.
In Phase 2, the concrete work alone, just for the sidewalks, is going to be just shy of $42,000. Plus your light bases, plus your poles. So, it's very, very similar to this Phase 2, if you will, where you come up with 734. It's a little longer.
Phase 3 is...
Phase 3.
Phase 3 would be, yes.
A little more.
Versus Phase 2.
So
It's
you're
going to be
looking,
really, really close to the 1st to 2nd Street, Phase 2.
So council members, get your pencil and write this down because it's kind of confusing.
Let me ask one question for you.
Yeah.
We're not really getting rid of any telephone poles then on First Street?
Not telephone
The
poles.
wooden streetlight poles would be gone,
Okay, and then which side of the street are we feeding it from, the west side?
the east side.
East side? Okay, so from the chamber parking lots where that electricity is going to come from?
And where that alley sits, that would cut in between First Street and the chamber parking lot, there's a transformer up on that pole. That would
Okay.
come straight down that pole and go underground.
All right.
Let me ask this, along the lines of Craig's comment. I guess I didn't... Cam's defense, he wasn't here at the last meeting, but I was here and I didn't realize we were going north on First Street. Can that be pre-wired for lights and done in a later time and still leave the other poles up and do the sidewalk? I feel like we're, instead of running down in a forward direction, we're spreading off and we're never going to get... Wasn't the main goal to get this street done first before we started doing other streets? I see what you're saying with the sidewalks, and I'm not... Maybe it's going to be too costly to do that, or...
You're saying you'd rather
Depends.
I'd rather bridge to Third Street.
I'd rather see us going that way than spreading off to nowhere, I
Yep.
guess, at this point.
Well,
we have to go north and south a certain distance just to connect everything. Is that right, Jeremy?
at least to the alley.
Minimum come down the pole
Right.
and come all the way back,
Right.
and it would be easier
While you're running it.
Yes.
while you're running it, because you're going to have to come up the bases with the wire. I'm sure that he could possibly oil
Okay.
some wire up into a manhole or something, which
Bases could be set, but no pole,
possibly.
which is still in the sidewalk.
But if we have a plan to move forward, I would still rather, we haven't heard that yet, but I would still rather have that work completed as opposed to having to backtrack.
Exactly.
Yeah, let's hear the plan, but my question was, why are we decorating that side when we really haven't done a whole lot of development over there? Doesn't mean we shouldn't, but, yeah, so what's the...
Well, we're in this partnership with Biggs to take down the Schaefer building. And the way Tim's setting that up with Tom Pittman is that it will be done with seeded funds, okay? So looking at what we have budgeted in 2017, coming from seeded, the Schaefer building was not coming from seeded. We had that budgeted out of the rainy day fund. We had $250,000, it's actually $275,000. However, we had $50,000 coming from the facade program. We had $100,000 budgeted for Madison Street out of seeded. So, if you would take the facade money, the $50,000, the Madison Street money, $100,000 from seeded, and switch them to the rainy day fund, then that would leave us the $125,000, whatever, the balance that we would have to take from our seeded general fund balance Am I saying that right, Tim? We could take it off from our seated general fund balance, but I don't want to do that, okay? But by switching these around, we would have $100,000 left in that rainy day fund that we could use on a project. And that project could be the lights, and we can do it all and have money left this year.
I think you're missing a project, sorry.
Okay, what am I missing?
The nature preserves on the seated also. So we'll have to add that one in, so there's probably not going to be anything left in the rainy day. Because we committed to that grant.
But we'll keep that in the seated.
Oh, you do want to keep
Yeah,
it?
we'll keep nature preserve in the seated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All we would do is, we would take the facade money, the Madison Street money, move those to rainy day fund, take the $150,000 that was in seated for those, use that toward the Schaefer building. That leaves $125,000 that we would have to take from the seated general fund balance, which is healthy.
But that requires an additional appropriation,
Okay?
which we could do at a later time. Phyllis and I talked about that briefly today. You have roughly $300,000 in capital. If you look at your seated ordinance, it designates $660,000 for capital projects. So to avoid having to go through the process of an additional appropriation in order to get the funds to Biggs to get the Schaefer building down more quickly, you would need to use the bulk of the funds that are designated for capital projects towards the Schaefer building. You could do an additional appropriation at a later time to cover some of these other expenses. It's the timing of when you do it.
Ultimately, what I'm trying to do, though, is to free up that an extra $100,000
Right.
that we could complete the lights this year. That's the intent.
But in turn, are you taking $100,000 away from the Madison Street
No.
project?
No?
It's just shifting dollars.
Madison Street, instead of being funded from seed, it would be funded from rainy day.
So where's the extra $100,000 coming from?
From the seated balance that's unappropriated. You have about $500,000
Yeah.
in there right now. So you're drawing down that to another $100,000 in order to come up with the additional funding for these projects.
$500,000 savings,
So it'd leave about $400,000 that would still be there.
Right.
And the timing's gonna work out, we're probably, with the Schaefer building coming down, we're probably gonna delay the Main Street or the...
Madison Street?
Madison Street.
Project.
We've-
so we could use those funds
We've
later.
discussed that with the Madison, and Schaefer building kind of next up on the agenda here anyhow. Tim's working with Tom Pittman on writing up this revolving loan fund.
What you'll do is you'll adopt a resolution, and then there will be a loan agreement and a promissory note. Loan agreement would be signed between the city and the developer. The note would be signed by the developer to the city. And that's a couple questions that I have, because there's a couple of conditions I want to know whether you want included or not, and what it takes in order for that loan to be forgiven. Because that's how you get the money to Biggs. You can't just hand him a check.
There has to be some conditions.
So you got to go through a certain process to get it to him. And what Tom Pittman shared is that the cleanest way and the safest way is to set up a revolving loan fund, loan the money to Biggs. Biggs meets certain criteria or requirements, and once he's done that, then the loan is forgiven. And you have the ability to do that. That counts from his perspective for tax credit financing as our contribution, as long as the original amortization period for the loan is 15 years or longer. So we're pretty well completed with the drafting of the resolution that council would act upon, and then the loan agreement and note, but I've got to get that to Kevin's attorney for him to review, his tax credit counsel down in Indianapolis, because we want to make sure that if there's anything that has to be changed in order for him to sign off on that, that we get that done in time to bring it to you at your May 2nd meeting.
And you're seeming to think that the paperwork end of it can be done in the next 30 days.
Yeah, we will, what my goal is to have their okay with the loan agreement and the promissory note by your next meeting. You can act on the resolution at your May 2nd meeting. We can immediately get the documentation signed. If we have the funds available from the seeded fund, those get transferred from the seeded fund, or what they call now the Capital Improvement Plan Fund, to the revolving loan fund, and then the revolving loan proceeds go to the developer based upon the loan, the promissory note.
And you were going to have some conditions for him.
Yes, the conditions, the first condition is that they provide adequate proof that all loan proceeds are spent on expenses that the statute authorizes or allows. And we've made that very broad in scope, so it should cover most of the expenditures. The second would be that the project be completed by April 1st of 2019, because what Kevin shared earlier was it was probably about an 18-month construction schedule from the time that they close on their financing, which is not going to occur until around October 1st of this year. The other condition would be that, and a couple of things that I wanted to know from you were with regard to do you want the condition that they have entered into a lease for parking spaces and that they have completed the parking lot, that they deed the property on the First Street level to the city, if you recall that?
I think all those conditions.
So I think all those conditions probably should be part of what they have to meet in order for the loan to be forgiven. The other thing that I would suggest is that they be given a deadline to get the Schaefer building down, probably around July 15th or thereabouts, assuming that we can get the money immediately to them in mid-May. That'd give them 60 days to get the building down. Jeremy said that he thought probably 30 days they could get it down, but that gives them a little bit of a window to get equipment in when they can, and also to account for any problems that may come up with weather.
So the answer to your question about Madison Street is we could do it this year, but we wouldn't be able to use it. You know, by the time we got it done, we wouldn't be able to use it. I think we would be best off to not do Madison Street. We can budget a little bit more money next year to add to the $100,000 we already have set aside, and not have to cut back on a few things.
But if we're not doing Madison Street, what's the rush to go through this revolving loan to get Schaefer building down?
Because of the safety issue of the building.
Yeah, we don't want that up there.
No.
Wouldn't we be better off to do Madison Street this year so it would be available as soon as the season starts next year? Because if we say we're going to do it next year, it's not going to get started till February or March.
And it should be ready by the time the season gets here.
I don't know.
Well, if you do the Madison Street project before you take down the Schaefer building, you're going to tear up the Madison Street.
I'm not suggesting that. I'm just saying that I thought the whole rush to get the Schaefer building down was so that we could do the Madison Street this year.
Both. There were two reasons. Safety was one, and that was the other.
That was in hopes that Schaefer building would have been down by now. It's not.
But a lot of it's going to be with timing, because you're going to have to get the utilities straightened around. There's an old combination sewer that's going to have to be replaced. Prior to paving 224, you're going to have to get, at a minimum, a new water line from the middle of 224 up into First Street, from 2nd Street, the same thing. The water main's going to have to be replaced on Madison. For Kevin to meet all the fire codes and the building codes, the water main's going to have to be replaced on 2nd to get adequate fire suppression. Same thing needs to happen on First Street.
Well, wouldn't that be part of Madison Street project? I mean, as far as its preparation, so that
It's preparation to get to that point. It's not
it has to be done prior to that.
But where are those water mains? In the middle of the street? Grand Street. Grand Street.
And you do not want to construct anything on or near those old ones. So, we could play this out timing-wise and see if it makes sense, see if we would get to that point, but there would be a lot of work to be able to get that out from bid yet this year. That would need to be completed.
And the way we were looking at it today, when Jeremy, Melissa, and I were all talking, the Schaefer Building's going to be down. Okay, that's progress. We're showing the community progress. The lighting will be up. We're showing progress. And I don't think delaying Madison Street into the late winter of next year to where it would be done by hopefully June of next year would really...
My point is, all of this preparation work is for Madison Street. So why can't you say this is preparing for Madison Street?
Have
we can.
Have we budgeted to do the water mains on Madison Street? Dan and I have talked. Madison Street's not going to be an issue. We still need to get some more figures on first and second.
Okay, when can we start that project? We already got money for that?
Once we know what the numbers are, for sure, we can start about any time.
So it really doesn't matter if we knock that out this year. We can do that, right?
Yeah, correct.
Even prior to the Schaefer Building going down, so we could speed up the project on Madison Street if we got the infrastructure. Because I'm totally against paving or putting paver bricks down before we have the infrastructure underneath the paving. So we could plan that, and we do have money we can do that with.
I believe so, yes.
Okay. Next thing I was going to ask was another contingency with the deal with Biggs. You said something about the deed, and then there's also a lease that they're going to pay. Is that going to take time frame? It's going to be the same time frame as the deed starts?
The deed would be an outright conveyance to the city.
Right.
The lease has to be for at least 30 years.
Right, but when does that take place? I just want to know if you're going to put that in that contract you're talking about. I mean, I'm just asking if that's something that needs to be in there.
Yeah, I've got it in there.
Start date on that. Is it completion of parking lot?
Yeah, the completion of the parking and green space, and then entering into it. At least,
So
in other words,
on the lease, we're going to wait.
we're not going to forgive the loan until all of these conditions are met, including
Which is probably April of 18.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure, is
Yep.
that just a reminder that we need that lease in
Yep.
place.
Yeah, but can you really put a lease in place before he has done?
Exactly.
Well, the lease is not with the tenants, the lease is with him. It's just to preserve or reserve 16 spaces for people that ultimately occupy the apartments.
That was part of his agreement.
That's
I realized
part
that
of
that
what-
was because the residents would need it, and then the project isn't completed and there aren't residents.
No, but it is his property, and you're leasing to him. I just wanted to toss that in there to make sure that we have...
It's our property, he's developing it.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Right, but he is the one developing it. It's not the tenant
Right.
that's developing it.
Right.
So you're actually leasing it to him?
Correct.
You're not leasing it to the tenants? So when do you want to trigger that? Is that part of the contingency?
These are conditions that I will add to what have to be met as terms before forgiveness of the debt.
Okay.
So I just wanted to run that by you to get your input on that, because to me, there were at least 2 or 3 that definitely should be, but the more I thought about it, these others, I think, should be included as
Do you
well.
think the lease should be included in that?
Yeah, I've got that in there.
All right, I didn't
Yep.
hear you say
Yep.
my part.
I think we got the ball rolling. Once you see actually when the Schaefer building is down, we'll know if you can do none of it in this year, part of it in this year, maybe all of it.
Yeah, if we can get the infrastructure side of it started this year, then next year should go pretty quick.
That's my point. Well, is the timing
What are
of
you doing
the
now?
infrastructure on the street, if it goes down at the same time, I mean, it's not going to bother us if they're out there pulling pipe and when the building, before the building comes down, because it's not going to matter, is it?
It still shows progress, is what you're worried about.
That's what I'm thinking.
That's right. And Tyler's same way.
I mean,
So you're showing that you're developing this and going to do with it.
It's really going to boil down to 3 things. One is making sure that we've engineered it properly. 2, that we've got contractors that are willing to put it in, and, 3, do we have the funding to cover it?
For the infrastructure under the Madison Street?
Yes.
Tim, what's Tom Tiffany's cost then?
I sent a bill, or not a bill, but a proposal. The board, I mentioned to you earlier that he told me 4,000 to 5,000 is probably what he'd have in it. He actually sent something that said it would be between 3 and 5. And what I told him, you had asked that we try to do what we can to keep his costs down. So I've been doing a lot of the drafting and sending it to him for his review, and then we make modifications based upon that correspondence. So we're pretty well done with that aspect. Hopefully that will keep his costs down.
So I need to find a fund to pay that for. Is that the only extra cost besides the $275?
Yeah, as far as I know.
Okay.
That is, he's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, Tom's been very good to work with and very reasonable in terms of trying to assist us to keep the costs as low as we can.
I just need to clarify, are we essentially saying since we are delaying Madison, we can free up $100,000 to use to extend this?
Well, the 100,000 that we have budgeted for Madison Street is still there.
I think we're dipping into the
Dip it into the unappropriated funds and see if revenues to come up with the additional funding.
So we're not taking money away from the Madison Street program at all?
No. The difference is, you have to use seeded funds for the revolving loan fund, so all we're doing is we're just switching the funding source.
I'm just making sure we're not taking away from, but
Then here's I get what you're coming from there. Now, we're going to take $100,000 and use it for the sidewalk, but now $100,000 isn't going to complete Madison Street. If we're not going to go get these other grants and stuff, we're going to be short on that. Where's that extra money going to come from?
The Madison Street project, we want to still do the patronicity grant, which would give us, we have to raise 50, gives us an additional 50, so 100. And Melissa, help me out here, what else were we using to go into the...
The city's 100,000, about 275 from capital campaign,
Right.
100,000 total from patronicity.
And that's kind of where we're at now.
Not even though we're comfortable saying we'll do that. About 500,000.
We had intended originally to try to apply to the Northeast Regional Partnership, but they said they were out of money, but then yet last week they came up with another, how many $1 million was it? All we're asking for is a little measly.
I think we should have our proposal
Well,
there.
And
I actually talked with the gentleman today.
Michael,
Yeah. And he encouraged.
did he?
us.
Melissa's shaking her head.
So, but it doesn't hurt to have the proposal there.
yeah, but they said we're not accepting proposals.
Yes, we were told not to submit, that there was no more money.
I would still send it up there too.
Well, you know, in that graph, I think I emailed it out to everyone, it showed that Adams County got X amount of money, it went toward the South Adams Trails. And then it said there was another $100,000 and some proposed. That's what this was for Madison Street. At least that's what I was told.
I mean, at least put it on his desk. Doesn't hurt to put it on his desk.
I mean, right, we don't have any room to say that we didn't get money if we didn't put anything in for it. Or at least it's sitting there.
It's a lot of work, right, Melissa? Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of money though, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but to us it is.
Yeah, but see, this very same individual said, don't submit.
Mm-hmm.
The same one that we sat down with and told us to submit it.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm saying, put it on the
I mean, I
desk.
had a meeting with him and he said, get it on my desk and get it in quick because we're ready to go. The same person.
Michael Galbraith?
Yeah, we sat right back there at that table.
Mm-hmm.
And
But that was before they realized they were out of money. And since then,
I
they
mean,
told
if
us
it's
not to.
not sitting there, how can they do anything with it?
Melissa, I think we probably ought to at least, we should contact Michael. I'll contact him tomorrow. If he says get it on his desk, we'll
I put it on his desk whether he says yes or no. Just send it up there.
well, that's easier said than done. It's, like I said, it is a lot of work to, just to
I thought it was
apply.
already done.
Yes. No, it's not done, no.
I thought that was to be done last month.
Well, no, we gave up on it when he told us not to do it. Anyhow, we've been sitting here talking about a decision that's not a Board of Works decision. But should I bring this up again here at the next meeting? Do I have...
Can I make one final comment?
Go ahead.
The concern I will have out here on 224 is if we don't try to get as far as we can get, is if we have a late winter and a late spring, that has to be paved and completed by the end of June.
Of next year.
So that's really going to put us in a time pinch
If we don't.
to get everything done that we need to get done prior to the asphalt contractor coming in. That's my final comment.
We'd really like to.
I'd really like to get done what we can get done out here, so it kind of takes the heat off the contractor and us.
And then we can be pushy with NDOT about getting it done rather than, hey, can you wait till we get our lights in?
It will be bid November of this year, so the contractor's going to be ready in April.
As soon as asphalt's ready.
April, May, definitely in June, this is going to have to be completed. It's probably, what do you think this is, Craig, a 3-week project probably? Because I think they're milling from Double Eagle all the way to the bridge. That's my understanding, so it's probably a 3-week project, 3-4 weeks.
The other part too is, if you get the infrastructure in, you get the concrete sidewalks in, and you get the bases in, we can always put the light poles in later. But if you get the sidewalks and the bases in, pay. Well,
NDOT's going to want you to light it.
they will.
Yeah.
Sooner than later.
If it's a U.S. highway, they're going to want that lit.
Well, it goes back to the same reason of going down First Street. If you're saying that asphalt needs to be in, because there's asphalt in this area, well, shouldn't we be going down?
You're also going that way on First Street with asphalt from the sewer project and some of that other.
Well, what? No.
Your point is you don't want to go down First Street.
Well, I mean, you don't want to be born under the state's road by any means. I mean, we're asphalting the back half of that First Street, correct? For Fleming in?
Fleming's doing from the intersection to the alley,
At the bank.
and we're doing just a little bit in between the two. Which is going to happen all at the same time. It's going to be, I've already told the same contractor to plan on doing that so there's no cold joints in it.
So Fleming's taking it to the alleyway between the bank and that house, and you're going to take it from the alley to the stop sign on Jackson Street?
No,
It's
we've
back
already,
from the stop sign.
yeah, we've already
It's only
done,
about one house wide.
right, we've already
That's all
came
we have
this
to do.
way down at Jackson. A couple hundred feet, probably.
Yeah, easy, a couple hundred.
Right. All we're doing is putting in a small section.
New.
Yeah.
So essentially, what we're looking at here is, if we expand this to Phase 3 to include, you said $42,000 between sidewalks and light bases, then you have to add another $20,000 for additional 5 more poles,
Roughly, yeah.
$62,000. If we add in $14,000 for sidewalks on First Street, because that's not in this here,
Yeah, it is. It's on that list.
but it's not part of his
It's
150.
not part of that number.
No,
It's an additional to the 150, so now we're up to 76.
You're going to be in the 85 range probably.
right, because you got roofs yet.
85, 90 range. We won't have a lot left out of that 100 if we do it all, but you're going to notice a big difference.
Finishing all of that.
Making a finished product. Yeah.
Yeah, then by June of 2018, you have new sidewalks, new lights, and newly paved street all the way.
It's a third.
No, well, the lights, yes.
The lights the third, but all new asphalt all the way to basically the Double Eagle. The golf course.
So my question, I guess, do you want to discuss this at council, or you, if there's no reason to bring it up if we're against it, if you're for this, I'll bring it up and go from there. Okay, we'll bring it up. There are a couple other things I want to mention in the Board of Works meeting before we get out of here. Melissa and I were talking today, if Biggs is going to have till July 15th to get the Schaefer building down, and sculpture tour is June 9th, You have Decatur, what, the next weekend?
No, July 22nd.
July 22nd. And then what else do we have? A car festival, we have
There's the debate motorcycle rally, there's farmer's market.
farmer's market.
Thursday night concert.
Do we want to basically eliminate anything on that section of Madison Street until, you know, I mean, I can't say when the demolition's going to start, but we need to come up with a contingency plan for everyone involved. You know, like I've already talked to the sculpture tour and told them that their wine tasting tent that they usually put there, they may want to relocate somewhere, because June 9th, there's a very good chance that building's going to be under demo. We can't predict the future.
Barricade at Second and Madison, that's closed.
But
Well, the key is if you're going to print signs for all these events, we don't want to print them if it's going to be on Madison Street, because I'm running into that with the farmer's market. So basically, we're going to print out signs that are going to say downtown.
yeah,
There can be more signs downtown for farmer's market, kind of direct them where it's going to be, because I don't want to put an address on it and go through that kind of thing. It's too much money to advertise.
so as for street closings of Madison Street, we're just going to have to kind of play it by ear, but and maybe let everyone know that as they make their flyers or do their promotional work, not to necessarily say it's on Madison Street. I guess the concert series is not going to be affected. That's on the other side of Madison, other side of Second.
That's between Second and Third.
Yeah. So, but just keep that in mind going forward, that there's going to be a period of time where Madison Street's going to have to be closed, and some of the festivals and farmers market activities are going to have to find another place during that time.
You're looking about a 3 to 4 week closure on First Street and Madison whenever the demolition is going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
How long do you think it would take to do those two mains? Do you have any clue at all? In the underground?
I'd have to look at the footage and tell you. I don't think it's going to be a long time.
2 weeks, 3 weeks?
I would 3, 4 weeks maybe.
How long? A month?
We put in about 100, 120 a day with just 3 of us, or 3 guys.
Okay. We'll bring the lights up again.
I'll do some more measuring and let you know.
I'm just wondering if we can coordinate that into a 6-week period. We're going to tear it up, we might as well tear it all up and get it done.
It's good. You're right, Craig. Yep.
I think you're going to be happier with it getting it all in.
I do too.
Well, great.
It'll make Madison go faster than heck if we get that
If the infrastructure's all in place, underground infrastructure's all in place,
right. Demolition, then we can start rebuilding.
Madison Street might be kind of rough for several months, but so what? We have other streets that are rough for a while
Well,
too.
and what you're doing is you're just putting the plans in place. You know,
Yeah.
you've talked about a lot of things that you'd like to see done. Now it's step by step to get all that out.
Do it.
So that's where we're at. I realize everyone has different ideas what they'd like to see first, what they want to see last. But when it comes to putting
Huh?
your feet on the
Not happen.
pavement,
It's gonna
there's
happen.
things that you have to do.
Yes.
I'm going to,
Thank you, Jerry.
Ken, may I throw something out here?
Yep.
Just an idea that hit me last night driving through Rockford, Ohio. That at certain strategic intersections, instead of having a single light, you have a double light. Second and Monroe Street here,
Oh, you mean the light
a
poles?
light on each side rather than
So a light on-
one.
Yeah.
So light, they
Now,
like
I
that.
spend
sidewalk
money,
also.
I know, but it was just an idea. And then when it comes time to be around the courthouse, doing something like that around the courthouse.
Jeremy's
asking-
missing all of this.
No, I already talked to him.
Okay.
Sliding the sidewalk.
And I also suggested asking the county to pay for that around the because they claim that.
Yeah, sure do.
It's just a thought.
Okay. The only other thing I have for the Board of Works meeting is to report that this evening, prior to this meeting, the Board of Zoning Appeals met, and our gentleman from Mobility with the poles what are they
Kim
called?
Dunn.
What's the service providers? Cellular service support structures was here. His plan was to install it. Okay, you all know the Circle Drive at the depot, okay, where the Circle Drive meets the police department lot. Right there, there is a light pole, okay? They originally wanted to take out that pole and put their pole there. Greg asked them if they could move it back more toward the railroad tracks. They said yes, and that's what their plan was tonight. They came in and asked to do that. The Pensy ladies were here. They were adamantly against having it right there in case they ever want to have outdoor functions and whatever, that it would be in the way. And Mr. Dunn said that he could easily move the pole 15 feet to the south, as long as if he moves it back and to the south. Basically, Greg's going to be, it's even going to be better for you. It's going to light that parking area out there even better. The Pensy Depot ladies were happy. Mary's happy. and Mr. Dunn, he although he is not the decision maker, he says that Mobility still wants to put up 3 other poles in Decatur, and that what they are working on with the locations for them is to co-locate them on existing AEP poles and not have to infringe on any right-of-ways.
Closer to the railroad tracks.
Yes. Yeah, you know where the paved area is? What's that? The carport off the north end of the...
It's kind of leaning.
Yeah, well, it's kind of Madison Street where it's at now, though, too. It's kind of like on the north side of Madison now, and it's going to be now more on the... if Madison Street continued straight through.
Push it back.
Yeah, so... anyhow, it was a good compromise. Everybody left happy. Mr. Dunn got his appeal through, and we gave him some contingencies, you know, and hopefully we'll be able to work together with them in the future and not have to fight with them. So that's all I had for the Board of Works meeting. Tim, did you have anything else for the Board of Works?
Well, we probably ought to talk about the 911 situation with council.
With council?
Because that involves potential funding.
Yep. I'll go back and get my paperwork for that, too. All right, if nothing else?
I'd like to say one thing.
Yes, sir.
Jeremy, I want to point out that if you guys remember, last year, we cited 5 garages that we felt were dilapidated, and also 3 metal storage sheds. And of those 5 garages, through the cooperation of the landowners, or the property owners, they've, and with Jeremy's help, we've taken down 4 of them.
I'll bring up the council.
4 garages are gone, and 1 storage shed is gone.
Don't you think that's a council thing?
And I'd like to thank Jeremy for doing this, because all these garages were unsightly.
Walkable alleys.
And, we got her done, so, thank you.
Well, right now,
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thank you, Jeremy.
And I have pictures of them. If you want to look at the pictures,
You're talking
we've,
about a temporary basis?
I gave them to all the board people before, but I've got pictures of them, and it worked out quite well. So, in fact, I had a lady call me up a few months ago and thanked me, and I said, for what? And she said, now I can go to my kitchen window and I'm washing my dishes and I don't have to look at that garage that was falling down behind our house, so, which makes a person feel, you know, when you do this, I mean, I see them as unsightly, the neighbors see them as unsightly, but the owner of the property thinks they're still useful, so.
Let's do the council. Motion?
motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed, the same. We are adjourned.